Hello and welcome to Healing Tips from the Heart, Intuition with Helpers, Healers, and Guides. I am your host, Dr. Lori Hops, licensed psychologist, writer, and artist. I've explored mind, body, and spirit related to intuition, or your personal guidance system, since early childhood. Meet my guests who have learned from their personal and professional lives to explore vast realms of knowing, synchronicities, and overcoming challenges. Their stories may inspire you with tools to enhance your daily living and relationships. Hello and welcome my special guest for today, Holly Timberlake. Holly is a licensed psychologist with a diplomate in comprehensive energy psychology. She works as a therapist and coach with people around trauma and transformation. She also helps people remove blocks to increase their resilience, which is the main topic for today. She's also a philosopher who is passionate about big stories of humanity, expanded consciousness, ancient archaeology, and the nature of reality. Holly also loves creativity and is focused on painting as a means of expression. And welcome today, Holly.
Well, thank you. It's really fun to be here. I'm really looking forward to this, Lori.
Thank
I
you. I'm
am.
so glad you're here. And I'd like the audience to know that I have met you in person several times through our Common or Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology. And
Mhm.
I think maybe it was 10 years ago that I heard you teach at
Uh-huh.
one of the ACEP conferences. And so I've
Okay.
always admired your work, and
Mhm.
I'm just so happy that you're here today.
Good. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Yes. Is there
Okay.
anything else you'd like to let the audience know before we start speaking about what resilience is and how it is helpful?
I I think that's probably a pretty good start. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you define resilience? Because we hear this term from time to time, but I'm wondering how you use it and what it means for you.
Well, for some people that might be a simple question and answer, but for me, like there's really a lot behind it. And so let me back up and just tell a little story first, okay?
Okay.
To get some little context here. And that is that as a child, my own upbringing was pretty full of a lot of disruption of many different sorts. And I lived in a family where my parents were both really pretty stressed and not particularly emotionally available. And I learned, I'm the oldest of three of us, and I either came in with, and in addition, I learned this ability to kind of bounce back. There would be some terrible fight or argument or whatever, and I would have to go to school the next day, right? And so I would bounce back and I'd be like, okay, I'm good. Look, and I'd come and I'd forget about it. I think children sometimes practice forgetting. I would forget and I would move on, and school was my happy place. So I recognized from an early age that I had this ability to really bounce back pretty quickly. And I'll tell another example of this. And this is, I've never told this publicly before, but this was really challenging to me, very challenging. I was in the eighth grade, ninth grade, and my parents had been separated they'd gotten separated. And turns out they were separated for 9 months before I told anybody, and somebody else heard through parent grapevine. And that's how it came out because I was just really ashamed, and worried about, just all kinds of things. Well, in that period of time, though, I had gotten pretty depressed, as it turns out, and I was depending on my friends to like get me through this. And one day I went into my locker and one of my friends had written, penned a letter to me. And the letter the only thing I remember about the letter was saying that I was a leech and they no longer wanted to be friends with me. And there were about 22 people who signed it. So I don't know why I'm saying 22, but in any event, I was absolutely devastated. I think I probably got that letter on a Friday, couldn't tell anybody in my family. And and it took me, truth be known, it took a long time to kind of really get on the other side of that. But I went back to school on Monday, and I went back to school, and I remember sitting down in choir practice, and I sat by different people. And immediately on Monday, like I started spending time with other people and immediately created a new friend network. And I just moved on and I moved through it. And whatever was going on, like I did not respond. There was never another word said about it. And that experience really was like, that's pretty powerful to be able to, really just bounce back, and move forward, right? Not just bounce back and move forward. So I have a long history with recognizing this capacity in myself. And
Wow.
then, yeah,
What a
yeah.
story. I mean, if we can just pause there for a moment,
Okay.
there's so much there. Just how important the social peer acceptance is always in our life, but especially when we're young and becoming teenagers. And to have a letter like that, I mean, I could see someone becoming suicidal from
Mm-hmm.
receiving that because it's such a striking rejection
Yeah.
signed by
Yeah.
all of those people. Oh my goodness. And that they didn't
Yeah.
have the courage to speak to you in person about it
Mm-hmm.
and that you had to just kind of take that in and carry that weight and that shame and try to figure that out. Like, wow.
Right. Right. And but largely what I did was to like put it back up on a shelf and move forward.
Yeah.
Like put it on the shelf and move forward. And so I don't, who knows exactly what happened after that. But in my memory, what I'm much more focused on is how I move forward
Yeah.
and how I got a new set of friends, and then, kind of kept that set of friends for a good part, the rest of my school experience. So
Wow.
yeah. So anyway, we that kind of thing would be the subject, of another podcast. And I don't want to really spend any more time on it, although I want to thank you for pausing and acknowledging that. That was very kind of you, and I
Yeah, you're
appreciate
welcome. I know I certainly can relate, maybe not 22, but I had my
that.
own pure heartbreaks and they really are almost like the beginning of adult romantic relationship struggles,
Yeah.
kind of it's like preparation for that almost,
Mm.
especially I think amongst same well, whatever it is, whatever your friendship group is. And when it's a
Right.
non-romantic connection, you learn these dynamics that are so painful. But for you, as you're saying, to focus on the resilience part of that formula
Hmm.
is so important. And you were well practiced by then
Hmm.
at
It
picking
was.
up and moving on after the
That's right.
huge
That's right.
blast
Right.
of whatever
So
it was. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, fantastic point. And that ability to pick up, I mean, it's an inner resource, it's a strength, it's a skill, and it's also a defense.
Yeah.
So as we know with any defense that we create that comes to us or we activate, however, whatever the right verbs are for that, when we're younger, there's also some cost to it, right? So, picking up and moving on means that there's not a lot of processing that happens. Maybe it means too that there's kind of a detachment from others and learning then to live inside a relationship with more detachment. Um, and so that there were effects of it too. And I think that's an important thing to mention in terms of resilience, because the resilience skills we have before we start consciously developing more of them, we come by them quite naturally. They emerge within us without any conscious awareness, and they're just how we navigate through the world. and recognizing that, yes, on the one hand, they've really helped us. And on the other hand, there's some, let's call it cleanup work to do, or some ways to, go back and heal, and as you know, as we heal what contributed to it, it frees up the patterns that we're engaged in as a response or a reaction to those traumas.
Yeah.
So,
So on the one hand, resilience can look like behavioral shift that looks positive and adaptive and healthy, but then there's the internal reactivity maybe that we're not dealing with because we're coping, somehow managing like the day-to-day or looking like people are well put together, but inside they might be crumbling or have crushing self-esteem issues or feel guilty about things, whatever it is. So part of the resilience is the emotional aspect to it. And I don't know whether, as a young person, you had a spiritual connection, but I imagine that that there's also that resilience spiritually.
oh, absolutely. And I think for people who have a strong spiritual connection, and a strong family, like a really strong family provides a lot of resilience,
Hmm.
to children, depending on some of the characteristics, but knowing absolutely that you're loved and you belong and you are accepted, emotionally is probably the greatest um, gift of, for your own resilience that you can receive. Um, so yes, and the same thing spiritually, right? If you know
Yes.
spirit or God is there and loving you no matter what, then, or whatever the variations on that theme are,
Yeah.
then that also is going to help for sure. And go ahead.
I was going to say, but what about for people who either don't have that or have lost it?
Well, so
Either
one, hmm,
yeah, their spiritual connection, or that they never really felt accepted or loved, or they didn't get that foundation. Maybe they found it in other ways, but it doesn't sink in as deeply because the foundation wasn't there or it's cracked.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, you hear, I'm sure, of people who, I just heard somebody say this the other day at the pet store. Somebody who works there saying, I've always felt much more comfortable with animals than I do with humans. So animals, in a child's life, animals can be a huge source of resilience because they're a source of, particularly dogs and cats in their own kind of cat-like way, um, are really, sources of unconditional love,
Yeah.
right? And then another source of resilience and a kind of unconditional love is nature. As I'm saying this, I'm looking out. I'm there are woods like directly in front of me. I
Hmm.
grew up in the woods, and the woods really were a place where I felt very comfortable. And so, trees are nurturing and trees are supportive. And the more we're learning about trees, it's like, in fact, I saw someone or heard someone, yes, I heard someone, Robert Edward Grant, actually saying that trees do help us. That what did they call them in the Lord of the Rings? The Ents? And they were the trees that moved and helped in the final war and whatever. And he's like, yes, trees really do help. And it's like, that's fascinating, isn't it? Right? That, we can get support and a boost to resilience from trees.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. And they talk about forest bathing, which is,
right. Mhm.
recommended in Japan as being a healthcare
Yeah.
recommendation for healthcare. And then we know that when you have too much buildup of positive energy, electricity in your body, that it's
Mm,
best to go barefoot on the ground and then be under a tree with your back to the tree or just exchanging breath air with the tree, but
mhm.
also because of that negative uh, energy
Negative
that is in
ions.
the earth and that can help rebalance us when we have too much, can lead to
Mhm.
inflammation, depression, and so on. So
Right.
those are great and true for animals, for kids, and for grown-ups too, at any
Right.
age. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Just one other source that occurs to
Yeah.
me. This may have been true for some people. When I when I was young, and this will give away my age. In fact, I was going to say my age too, because I think it's a little proof in the pudding kind of thing for resilience. Um, but when I was young, there was a series of books out called The Boxcar Children. And the Boxcar Children was a family of children who, I forget how, but perhaps both their parents had died, and they lived in a box. They lived in boxcars, and they would like hobos or whatever we would call them at the time. And I think there were four of them, and the oldest was a girl, and then she had a brother who was a couple years younger, and then there were two younger siblings, and would read these stories in school about them. And I think I really identified with her
Hmm.
because she had to be really strong and take care of everybody. And her brother helped, but he was a little bit younger. And so it was really on her shoulders. And, that fit my own family situation. But it also gave me a role model of someone who was dealing with very difficult situations, right? And she had, this beautiful heart and spirit and energy and this story of all the children being resilient and safe together. So,
Wow,
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, it's poignant
Hmm.
for children to have to take that on, but many do. And we take it on in different times of our life too, as adults when we
Right.
feel alone. We may even be having family around us, but we don't feel connected.
Hmm.
And so, or alone with secrets or shame, whatever it is, it disconnects us, or from source or spirit,
Right.
some kind of a spiritual crisis or a change in identity. So there's all kinds of ways when we need that resilience. And I love that you could take literature as an example. Today
Mm.
we have so many other forms of media, but people do, it's the same, it's the heroine or hero's journey.
Right.
The Lemony Snicket. My kids are adults now and they grew up with the
Yeah.
Lemony Snicket stories. And it was the same thing, like the kids who were alone. It's like us against the world and having to
Mm.
outwit the evil adults and, all of that, and adversity. How do you deal? A lot of Disney stories and Roald Dahl stories, they often have kids who are alone and,
Right.
but they band together somehow.
Hmm.
Even Wendy and Peter Pan, we can go way back. So
Right. That's true.
Dorothy had her Toto.
I was going to say they often band together with animals, right?
Yeah, right,
Right.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Beautiful. You're
Yeah.
right.
So I was going to ask you, because you do specialize with energy psychology, um,
Mm.
whether you have some tips for our audience about resilience that deals with the energy body. And
Yeah.
because we talked a little bit about nature and emotions and community and believing in yourself, which is all great, but you have this
Mhm.
extra special thing that I'd love for you to speak about.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. There are a couple things I'd like to say about that. And one, let me go back to your question about what my definition is.
Okay.
That's very pertinent. So it used to be that we thought about resilience as bounce back ability, which we've already talked about. Then people started beginning talking about resilience, probably around the time of COVID was when I saw this. And it was right before COVID that I was like, oh, resilience. I really have to, I had this intuitive hit that it was going to be really important. And so we had this notion you started to see of bounce ahead ability. And I think
Oh.
it's it's like connected with post traumatic transformation,
Hmm.
right? And post-traumatic growth, that we can grow through trauma, right? So through the challenges we experience, we actually grow. And so it's not just that we bounce back to where we were, we actually bounce ahead because we've grown as a result of navigating it, solving for the issues, and then resolving it and integrating all of that within us, right? Um, and yet, there's another, even more significant and profound, I think, level of resilience. And that is the capacity to stay centered, grounded inside ourselves, and I would add, connected and attuned to spirit, to source, and as we move through challenges, so we're moving through life and there's chaos and there's conflict and there's threat, we are able to stay centered and connected. And then we could also use words like more coherent, like our heartbeat stays calmer, our brain stays more focused, we stay more in the frontal cortex. We're able to just kind of slowly process things. The more we're able to carry all those fantastic qualities into the challenges in our lives, then that to me is, at least at this point, that's the ultimate in resilience, right? And so when we start incorporating energy in, it's like people who are learning and practicing staying centered and grounded or attuned, also have an awareness about their own energy and kind of managing our energy, right? And how net energy is neutral, but it can be discordant, it can be chaotic, disorganized, and that's what we tend to refer to as negative energy or heavy energy, right? Or it can be really harmonized and coherent and light and bright. And that is, that's really what we call positive energy, right? So the more positive energy we are able to access, generate, maintain, and grow, the more resilience we're going to have, right? So as we become more conscious about how am I feeling energetically? Like what's going on with me energetically? And let me give you a way people can think about this, which is if you think about you're suddenly faced with some kind of challenge. Say, I don't know why this is coming, very simple, but say it's like a deadline, and it's like, you've got some huge thing that needs to be done in a short amount of time. The more that you can continue to stay in your body and breathe in a deep way, right? Um, an energizing way, then the more, like, on the one hand, it's almost like I have this equation now. The less reactive you get, right? The less reactive we get, the less like freaked out we get about, oh my God, am I going to get it done? I have so much to do. Or the less fearful we get, about what's going to happen if I don't get it done, or the less agitated and frustrated we get. I can't believe I don't have this done yet. I can't believe, all of that's energy, right? We know many of us talk about emotion is energy in motion, and there are different valences or directions for that. But all of that is an output of energy that drains us, right?
Yeah.
And so the more we can develop, and there's so many things I think that ways we can do this and things that can help us, but the more we can develop more of that ability to stay calm and centered and get decreasingly reactive, right? So on a scale from 0 to 10, instead of, if I'm able to go from getting to like a 10, like getting that intense, to even a 5, then I have conserved all that energy from 5 to 10. And conserving that energy also means I don't have to build back up from expending it. So I've conserved this energy, which gives me more resilience, because resilience is also being able to go through life with a feeling of, I don't like vital life force energy, right? Vitality, right? So we conserve energy, the calmer and the more focused and untriggered we can stay. And as we conserve energy, then we can use that energy more for opening up and expanding into higher levels of energy. You and I have talked like just a tiny little bit about awe, or
Yes.
gratitude, right? Like, and then when we open up to those energies, they just flood or gently shower, whichever feels better, us with, beautiful, high vibrational, pure energy. So we make ourselves more available to access the loving, harmonious energy from the universe, from God, from spirit, from source.
Oh, thank you
So,
for that. That's a great explanation. of just bringing down that kind of chaotic, frenetic, the negative things we tell ourselves, maybe the body getting agitated. But when we are under pressure, it is hard to switch gears. Do you have any kind of favorite tips that you use to
Yeah.
kind of help restabilize? Like you may not have time to find a dog or a tree.
That's right. That's right. Well, right. Like you might be able to look at a tree, like I'm able to look at a tree and that sort of helps. But if you're not able to do that, there are, yes. And yes. So I would start by saying it's for us to intervene and to change that sort of downward spiral, into increased reactivity, we need awareness. We need to be able to say, oh, look, what's happening, right? So as soon as we have that momentary awareness, the more we can then pause and start with a breath. Like every time I just begin to be aware, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to take a
Hmm.
maybe take a couple of deep breaths. Some studies say if you give yourself 9 seconds, you can shift, you can begin to shift out. So a couple of deep breaths would be about 9 seconds worth, right?
Hmm.
Then if you have really simple things you can do. And so I have two things that I like to add to this. I like this little 4-part process that I give to people. One of them is to then reassure yourself it's all right. It's like just really simple words. It's all right. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through this.
Yeah.
I've got your back. I love you no matter what. Like those are all examples of something really simple. Some of those might be easier for some people to say to themselves than others, but gives you an idea. And then, from an energy modality, energy method perspective, my absolute go-to is the thymus thump. Say is right in the center of your upper chest. So there's a bone called the sternum, and you just tap. You can tap with the pads of your fingers or the back of your hand in a soft fist, thumping, yeah, or sideways, whatever feels best. Some people might have issues. Oh, if somebody has like fibromyalgia or something like that, they can pulse, and pulsing feels much better than the thumping. But anyway, um, so so this is called the thymus thump. It's very simple. The thymus is the master gland for the lymph system. It lies right underneath the sternum. So the activation on the sternum activates the thymus gland. And as I understand it, under stress, the thymus gland begins to shrivel up. And so if you percolate it somehow, percuss it somehow, or move it, it begins to plump back up. And the word I use for it is that it gives a person actually a feeling of resilience. It's kind of like, oh, I've got this, right? Because it's like the thymus is, maybe we could call the thymus the heart of resilience. And as it plumps back up, it gives us strength. So whatever we're feeling, it tones it down. It softens the sharpness of it. It changes the scale. I'm thinking of a scale. And so suddenly we have more resilience to navigate whatever it is that's stressful. So that, as you know, Lori, can bring people out of anxiety attacks. It's very, very powerful. And for many of my clients, it's become automatic, and start feeling stressed and they'll immediately go to their upper chest, right?
Super.
So as maybe you do, as I've done forever, having done this now for 20 some years, I think. So those four things, just the awareness, take a couple breaths, reassure yourself, it's okay, you've got this, we're going to get through it. Remember, we're going to be on the other side. One of the things with anxiety and stress is that we get focused on the thing that we're worried about. And it's almost like we forget that there's going to be something after that and it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's like, this is just this little moment. As soon as we get on the other side of that moment, we're moving forward.
Yep.
So I mean, there are many, many, many things I could share. but that is absolutely my go-to energetically.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah, when
welcome.
we were just together in person at the ACEP conference, well, by the time this airs, it'll be February. But anyway, we were together a few months ago.
That's right.
And I was watching the replays of the recordings of the presentations. And one of our colleagues, Lori Layden, did the thymus thump, but she did it a little bit differently, which is actually
Yeah.
how I was originally taught, which is you do the
Oh,
prep for it. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but you
oh,
think of,
please.
you smile. You think of
Mm-hmm.
someone you love, and
Mm-hmm.
then you do the physical tapping on the thymus.
Hmm.
So that's kind of a nice,
Right.
that already breaks up a bunch of stagnant energy
Right.
along with the breathing, the smiling, even if you don't feel like it, it
Mm-hmm.
creates a physiological reaction in your body and association with when you are happy or joyous. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then to think of someone you love that like already
Mm-hmm.
puts you into a different mindset. And then you do the tapping. And then some people also just hold their heart and then they tap on the back of the hand in between the
Mm.
last two fingers. There's a little valley there between the smallest finger and the one that the ring
Right.
finger. So there's all
Right.
kind so I guess what I'm saying is find your own way. In
Right.
the program notes, I'll have the links for what are called resources for resilience, which are a series of videos that ACEP puts out. And
Mhm.
thymus thump is one of them that's in there, but there are
Right.
others as well. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's opening the door to something different to break up that stagnant energy, that tunnel vision, and the thinking that you're trapped or that it's impossible or that you'll never get through it or that you're living through something from the past that's not even part of the now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. One of the things it does, like if when we have that pause, we have that momentary awareness, it's the image that I use for that is like somehow we've stepped one leg out of being immersed in the situation. And we're like, oh, look, I'm stressed. Oh, look, I'm frustrated. Once we have that conscious recognition, and that's when we can that's when we can do something about it because we now have perspective. We're not immersed, we're not consumed by the reaction,
yep.
right?
Great. Thank you.
There's another nonprofit similar, and it is done by energy psychologists or people who are part of ACEP, and it's called FREIA, which stands for Finding Recovery and Empowerment from Abuse. And so the focus of it is on and many kinds of abuse. I mean, abuse in general, emotional, physical, sexual abuse. And there are segments there where there are many, I want to say 20 or more little videos of all these ways that we can interrupt the process, right? And identified by these things help with anxiety, these things help with frustration, this helps with, shock and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, just so people know
Beautiful. Thank
that
you.
as well. Yeah, you're welcome. You're
And
welcome.
I know on the resources for resilience that we have many different languages that it's been so the videos are
Yeah.
without language, so you can just follow along no matter what language you speak. And then we have downloadable instructions in a variety of languages. I don't know if the FRIA videos are similar in that way or not.
No, that's interesting. Um, yes, that
Okay.
that would be a good future movement
Yeah.
for us to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got
Wonderful.
articles in there and some some longer videos and blogs. And we're also have a Facebook page, um,
Super.
Support. So, okay. So I just
Great.
finally wanted to add that. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. That'll all be in the program notes. People can click on the links and go and learn more. Thank you so
Okay.
much for devoting yourself, you and Kristen both,
Yeah.
and the others who are collaborating with you to give away so much of this information for free and making sure that it gets to the people who need it. It's
Yeah.
truly a gift to humanity. So thank you for
Hmm.
that.
It is. It is. Yes. And thank you for your own way of doing that as well, because I know you do. So,
Thank you.
and that's, to come back. Let's talk a little bit more about resilience in terms
Okay.
of, we can talk about it in terms of in the moment. Here's what I do in the moment to help myself stay more centered and stabilized emotionally and energetically. And yet, what we also have the profound capacity to increase our capacity for resilience. So that, for example, I just talked about, as an example, a deadline. Well, the more resilience that I have built as a skill and a strength within me, I come to that deadline and it is far less stressful to me because I have this built-in resilience. So instead of, for example, going into, getting stressed, my nervous system like suddenly shifting into fight or flight, I can navigate that. And being able to navigate that, I keep myself freed of the negative self-talk and the negative beliefs, and also the negative anticipation, like visualizing or thinking, what awful thing is going to happen, right?
Hmm.
And so that all becomes part of what we carry through. You used the word carry before. Like these are strengths that we're carrying within us. So when we face something like that, it's like instead of going there, like we can get to a point where like the first thing is, it's all right. We've got this. I speak in terms of we as a depth therapist and working with parts and all of that, like that we kind of come naturally. But anyway, so the parts of us that are scared, we've got this. It's okay. We're going to be good. We're going to move through this. It's going to be fun to be on the other side of it. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing exactly how it, unfolds and, what I come up, And so that when we go that direction, rather than spiraling downwards, we're actually spiraling upwards into possibility. So, but to be able to do that, to be able to, it's not, I talk about it. I hope it doesn't sound like, I mean, maybe so far it sounds like it's a pretty easy thing to do. And I think that's not a fair statement. And I don't want anybody to walk away feeling like she can do it, but how come she can do it and I can't, right?
Hmm.
And so one of the things that's really important to know is that the more that we heal ourselves, and I'm going to use Carol Look's way, her delineation of this, because I think it's so memorable and great, is that there are three aspects of the wounding that we still carry from the past, right? Um, that is still affecting us, right? And still contributing to all that downward spiral we do when we're faced with challenge or threat. And the first one, she talks about the container and how much pain are we carrying in our container, right? So the more pain we're carrying in our container, the less room we have for possibility and the
Hmm.
less room we have for growth, right?
Hmm.
And so all of that, whenever we've experienced negative, significant enough negative experiences, they impact our self-esteem, right? So our feeling of self-worth, like our feeling of belonging, our feeling of being loved, deserving of being loved, right? Our feeling of adequacy or inadequacy, comes into inadequacy.
Hmm.
And those are all kind of encapsulated in those negative beliefs. And so the other thing we have now the tools to work on to do is to help us reverse those negative self beliefs into positive supporting beliefs, right? So from I'm incapable, I'm incompetent to I have everything I could need, want, or would be fun to have to be able to move through this situation, right? I'm completely and sufficiently resourced. Like that's so much better a thought and a self attribution than I'm not enough, I'm not good enough,
Yeah.
right? The difference is huge there. So that's the second. And then she said that the third, and again, I think any of us who've done this work for a while have identified these, but I like how she describes them. The third, then, are self sabotaging behaviors.
Hmm.
So they can be addictions and procrastination are some of the two big ones, really, I want to say, in terms of classes. And so instead of being able to bring our best selves to tasks at hand or to situations at hand, we might collapse. You'd use that, like psychologically collapse, like get scared, I can't do it, I don't know how, I feel overwhelmed, I feel blah, blah, blah. And so we procrastinate, we put it off, we avoid, or we engage in addictions. And, there's hundreds of addictions that we can engage in to distract ourselves. So the more that we empty the container, the more that we reverse the beliefs, so we have now more room inside for positivity. We have more, our nervous system, our energy field and structure is more oriented towards the positive,
Mhm.
right? Then we're much more able to change behaviors that then sabotage our well-being in the world. And so tapping, is like, and in terms of self-empowerment, is just, I don't know anything better for helping us to heal and grow from and through the past and the present difficulties that we're experiencing, to actually, or absolutely rather, transform our lives into a life and a feeling from inside. Like when I can feel like really vitally alive, and I can feel energy and enthusiasm, excitement, like living life with this kind of energy inside is beautiful and it's possible. It takes work to get there.
Yes.
We're always right. Every step, though, gets us a little bit closer. It's very cumulative. So, so I just want to add that there's this piece about building resilience that is also about doing the hard work.
Yes.
It's easier
Thank
in
you.
the moment. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted, if you could just speak another moment about tapping, because you mentioned it, but we didn't really talk about what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
for people who are like, okay, so I emptied my container and I'm telling myself better things and I'm recognizing my self-sabotage, but then you're saying there's this formula that really helps to flip the switch and keep it there and
right,
sustain it. So what is this tapping thing?
right. Right. So the simplest way to understand or think about tapping is as emotional acupressure, right? So when you're feeling upset, you get in touch. At least this is my way of doing it, and many of us do it this way. But you get in touch. What's the bodily sensation if you have an orientation towards being in your body, feeling good in your body, feeling at home in your body? You go and feel inside. What am I feeling? And if I can notice nervousness or anxiety or frustration, then what I would do is do this emotional acupressure on that feeling, on that experience I'm having. And then at the end of going through what we call a set, almost invariably, you will notice that you feel less stressed, less upset, less frustrated about it. And you can do it, repeat it to a point where you get it to a point where it's like, it really is not bothering me. Like maybe I can't believe it. This seems a little startling that something that's bothered me always forever now doesn't bother me so much. Like, what's that? Um, that then it's like, okay, there are more complicated, extensions of things we can do with it. But that's kind of the basic thing. It's this actually tapping on parts of our body that, then help us for a combination of reasons. And the research shows that it is highly, highly effective. um, we can't say for sure exactly why or all the components that are going in to making it that effective, although many of us believe that it is rebalancing our energy field and system. And as our energy field becomes more balanced and harmonized, then what I call the subsystems, like our cognitions and our neurochemistry, and our musculature and the thoughts and the feelings and the hormones produced, like all of that shifts into a healthier, calmer state.
Yeah.
Um, And you can find, I think I mentioned Carol Look. She just wrote a book called Yes, Thank You, which is, I think, a fantastic book, really, for both helping people get a map, like what am I tapping on? It's not just like what words do I use, but what is this about? What am I trying to do here? And she kind of actually presents this sort of overall picture and then incorporates a practice of gratitude with it as well. And in that book, she shows you how to tap. So that's one way. There are millions upon millions of tapping videos on YouTube. And you can
Yes.
look up tapping, EFT, emotional freedom technique,
Yeah.
and whatever the symptom is, chronic pain, upset stomach, grief, fear, anxiety, dread, whatever. And there will be people who have created these videos for you to walk you through it. And so that's one way to do it. And then there's Tapping Solution has an app that a lot of people find helpful.
Hmm.
And then there are friends at Peaceful Heart Network who do all the, started out working with refugees in Rwanda, and they work with communities that are struggling with community violence of some sort throughout the world. And they have some really simple training and free training and videos as well. So that's peacefulheart.net,
Great.
tappingsolutions.com. So yeah.
Yeah, there are others too. And then I have some videos
Mhm.
too. I think Robert Bray has one, a demo on thought field therapy, which is the origin of this work. And so just to
Right.
review, it's self-administered,
Yes.
simple, percussing or tapping, holding or massaging endpoints of the meridians. That's through Chinese
Right.
medicine. And it's mostly around the head, the torso, and maybe the hands or legs, depending upon what system you use. And
Mhm.
thinking about the distressing thing, it could be silent, it could be spoken. You don't have to use scripts, you can. There's, debates
Mhm.
about all of that and what sequence to use and all of those things. But basically, the idea is that it does calm the body, center everything, the mind, the body, the spirit. And we have physiological research outcome data on this too. So it's
Yeah.
not just placebo or thinking that it's going to work. The body actually responds. And if you tap on sham points, it
Mhm.
doesn't work. So there's
Right.
something to the locations. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
anyway, thank you for that. This is so good.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
coming to the end of our time. I know we could talk
Okay.
longer about this topic. This is a wonderful introduction to resilience. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you'd like to
Fantastic.
share for today before we say goodbye?
I, I think the thing that I do want to share is that I, my my prayer, my hope for everyone who listens to this podcast is that it increases their sense of hope and possibility for themselves, that no matter what they're experiencing or carrying in their container, that there are these tools that they can transform their own life with, and they can move into more and more a way of living where they're feeling, like this vital aliveness. And I want that for every single person who listens to this podcast. So
That's a beautiful blessing.
yeah,
Yeah, it's part of our birthright.
it is. It is. Yes,
Even when we're in turmoil with the outside world or the inside world, it's part of our birthright. And we don't learn enough of it and soon enough in life, but that's changing with new generations. So thank you so much for
it is. It
contributing
is.
to that
Yeah.
this new way of living or an old way of living that's being revitalized and brought back.
There's that. Excellent point.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lori. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
bye-bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. If you want to learn more, you can visit my website,
for podcast and resources at hopshealingtips.com. You can also like, share, and subscribe to this channel. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and is not providing healthcare advice. Please seek guidance from your professional healthcare team should you need assistance.